So, as you might imagine, I find myself with a little bit of extra free time this week. I'm sure many of us are in the same position as we find ourselves with nothing on our calendars. Our schedules are completely clear for the foreseeable future. And schools aren't meeting, church services have been canceled, events and things that people have planned have been postponed, trips, any travel that you have has been delayed. Many of us are unable to go into work as we all try to isolate ourselves and stay home for the sake of our communities. And I know many people are continuing to work normal hours or even extra hours doing the vital work of medical care and store operation and other essential duties our communities need to survive. And if you're in that position, I'm immensely grateful for the work that you're doing. But if you're stuck at home or if you just need some encouragement, I thought that I would try to use some of my extra time to share some devotional thoughts every day or every couple of days, just reflecting on our current situation and where God may be present to us in the middle of it and where God may be challenging us to be present to others in the middle of it. I found myself asking a lot this week that question: where is God in all of this? And I'm sure I'm not the only one asking that. I wish that God would just make himself known clearly and just show up and heal all the sickness and drive out all the fear and anxiety and panic and help our world get back on track again. That sounds great, doesn't it? But God doesn't often work the way that we wish he would. Yes, Jesus Christ has defeated death, but that doesn't always mean what we wish that it meant. I think even Jesus' disciples had to wrestle with that. In John chapter 20, Jesus appears to his disciples following his resurrection. And Jesus was crucified on a cross and was buried for 3 days, but then rose from the dead. And his disciples, they haven't seen him yet, or at least not all of them. And Jesus approaches them as they're all waiting in a locked room, nervous and anxious because they don't know what's going to happen to them. Their leader, Jesus, was just crucified a few days ago, and now they're nervous. What's going to happen to them? And they've locked the doors, but Jesus appears in the room, and he stands among them, and he says, "Peace be with you." Now, if you've spent much time in church, you may have heard this story enough that it doesn't strike you as strange. But it is a strange story. The Son of God has just been risen from the dead. But there's no loud announcements. There's no trumpets or flyers or billboards that say the Lord is risen. There's no fanfare or excitement. Just one man quietly walking into a room of anxious and terrified people saying, "Peace be with you." Then the text tells us that Jesus showed his disciples his hands and his side, places where he was pierced during the crucifixion, his wounds, his scars. And we ask, he still has the wounds? Somehow the power of the resurrection didn't erase the pain and the suffering that Jesus experienced. It didn't make all of the sad things untrue. At least not yet. We believe in the promise that all of the sad things of the world will be untrue when Christ returns to establish his kingdom in its fullness. But for now, we still live in that broken world with viruses and sickness, with anger and frustration and disappointment, with sin and death. For now, we sit and wait. Many of us in locked rooms and houses, huddled together, worried about what's going to happen next, trying to manage all of the strangeness and the craziness going on around us. And where is God amidst all of that? I think he's standing here among us saying, "Peace be with you." In the 4th chapter of his letter to the Philippians, the Apostle Paul writes, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." I hope this week we are all able to cast our burdens onto God, to lift up everything, no matter if we are stressed or anxious or frustrated or angry, to lift it up to God and trust that Jesus Christ will give us his peace, the only peace capable of driving the darkness out of our minds and out of our hearts. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll continue to join me over these next few days and weeks as we all do our best to be aware of God's work in our world, even in these really strange circumstances. Thank you.